inviting us for the interview. My name is Jeff Watts, and I am here on behalf of Coffee from Colombia. I live in Bogota and I work with Azahar in the quality development. But prior to that, I worked for about 25 years in the United States growing a company called Intelligentsia. I've spent most of my life as a roaster and a buyer, and now I'm on the other side.
My name is Tyler Youngblood, and I started the company Jeff mentioned, Azahar Coffee Company, while on a road trip through South America in 2010. And we work with a bunch of small producers, principally in the south part of the country, a little bit up north on the coast. And more recently, we started working in Mexico as well. And we have a business model that is designed to provide producers of the highest quality coffee with good, stable income by achieving long-term relationships between them and specialty coffee importers and roasters.
Hello everyone, my name is Benjamin Paz. I am a coffee producer from Honduras, and I also work for a coffee exporting company that's been in business for over 40 years, and it's a family business, and I've been working in the last 12 years running the specialty coffee program, basically building relationships in between roasters and importers, buyers, and coffee producers. And I also have a small cafe in my town, and I'm a barista once in a while.
한국 커피 시장에 가지고 계신 영상이 있는지.
Sure, we came to Korea to attend cafe show. We've been working with the Korean market through Hannah and Hankook, and so we wanted to come and see what it's all about and where the coffees are going. And so she took us to meet one of the roasters that uses some of our coffees yesterday. And I think that we've been really interested. I mean, the first thing that strikes us is that there's a cafe on every corner. Someone last night, I don't know if it's true, explained to us that there are something like 87,000 cafes in Korea. I don't know if that's true or not, but it looks like there's more when you're walking around Seoul. And not only are they cafes, but they also have, a lot of them have roasters inside them too, which is pretty unique for us to see. So it's micro roasteries and cafes. And it seems like everyone's talking about coffee. We've even met consumers that have an opinion and they're like, no, I drink specialty coffee. And then at the same time, we've met some people that have said, oh yeah, but that's just on the surface. Specialty coffee is on the surface and the rest is volume, just volume. And so we're interested in figuring out kind of what's, how big the specialty market really is. And what kind of coffees people like.
I mean, the definitions of specialty coffee are fluid. So it's really hard to say. It alludes to what Tyler was saying earlier about the modes of consumption and the types of coffees that people are drinking. There's classifications, commercial versus specialty, where the lines are drawn based on price tiers. There are others where people use certifications as a qualifier for whether coffee is considered specialty or not specialty. But neither one is really specifically tied to specialty as we understand it. Where specialty's definition is more tied to both how producers were compensated, but what the intention was in the creation of the coffee, to what degree its character and flavor were the result of deliberate craftsmanship. And then how those flavors display and the flavor range, all of those things together help form the definition of specialty. And I think it's something the whole world is still in the process of trying to agree upon. So even within in the United States, I know there's arguments all the time. Is this specialty? Or is this specialty? Is this specialty? And, I think we're in a time when people are trying to, the global community of specialty coffee lovers are trying to come up with a more specific definition. So it makes it easier for us to have conversations about, for example. And the certifications were very popular in the 1990s and 2000s, have become a little bit less popular, at least in some marketplaces, like the United States, in recent years. Largely because after 20 years of seeing them operate, people have said, what did it accomplish? And so oftentimes the answer was less than what we had all imagined it could accomplish. And so I think part of the reason for that has to do with how complicated coffee is. There's not a single way to describe or measure or guarantee its value, but rather we have to understand coffee holistically, I think. Talking about quality, how it was produced, where it was produced, for who it was produced, why it was produced, and all of those. If we can answer all of those questions, I think we will get closer to a world in which consumers and farmers can really start to have a relationship. And it'll be easy for us all to answer the question, what is specialty?
I don't necessarily believe that we need a rigid definition and you're in or you're out. But I do think that we also need to be honest about what is truly the different coffee, and what isn't. It should start by, I think knowing where it comes from is a good starting point. And then, having this be, coffee that is sensorially different, that really tastes and smells different and good and is special in that sense. I think because it is a product that we're consuming at the end of the day. And the end goal is that people enjoy consuming it. If you want to think of coffee as just fuel and caffeine, you should probably just take a pill, So I think it's important to revisit the definition of specialty. And one last thing I'll say quickly. Recently, the SCA has been considering expanding the definition of specialty coffee again to include that it cannot be considered specialty if the people that produced it were not treated specially. And I think that's an important thing to think about, because how special is this product that is sometimes so unsustainable that you can't even go back to the same producers and buy it because the producers weren't doing well enough to keep farming. So every year you switch to a new farm, to a new farm, to a new farm, because farms are going out of business. If that's happening, then it's a commodity again, because you're saying, I can replace it with a new farm, fine. I can replace that with a new one. So I think that's an important thing for us to consider including in the definition of specialty. Again, is how special are the people treated that make it also. I think that's important to consider.
Definitely cup of excellence, it's been a key factor in the growth of my region, and I think the impact of cup of excellence goes beyond the auction. And yes, there's a limited space in the auction, limited space in the competition. Not everyone makes it over there, but the exposure, it's been really important, and I can share my experience of what they were getting into were successful. Just to give you an example, the first producer from Santa Barbara to participate won the first place in 2005. And that brought an attraction to the market that wanted to know exactly what Santa Barbara was capable to produce. And we were, as farmers, we were interested in continue participating based on the success of one individual. And that individual opened the opportunity and expanded the vision of many other producers that were there, neighbors, relatives, that all participated and ended up, winning, like being in the auction. And there was a moment in Santa Barbara where, which is a very unique situation that makes me feel very proud. The top 10, 9 out of 10 were from Santa Barbara that year. And that was like a great opportunity for us to present the coffees, but also that situation that was happening attracted the market. People wanted to know what was happening there, why there were so many coffees from this tiny region that no one knew about. So the impact went beyond all of that, brought all these buyers that wanted to connect with the producers. And based on those first interactions, we built a relationship program that now doesn't only have 2 producers or 3 producers, it's over 400 now. And all of it just because of the development post Cup of Excellence discovery in Santa Barbara.
Is its ability to shine the light on regions and groups of farmers and communities that prior to the existence of Cup of Excellence were not being recognized for their potential. A good example, you can think about Guatemala. Guatemala, historically was always well known for the coffees that came from Antigua, which was the famous region for quality. And it wasn't until the Cup of Excellence came along and started creating these a level playing field where it didn't matter how much resource a farmer had or how much marketing ability the farmer had. It was just the coffee competing on its own intrinsic merits against other coffees from other parts of the country. And what was surprising to people at first was that the best quality, the most exciting coffees weren't necessarily coming from the regions that were the most famous. So it happened in Nicaragua. Most of the famous areas were Jinotega, Matagalpa, but it was the small little region up in the far west called Dipilto that through the Cup of Excellence proved to be one of the most prolific producers of quality in Pitalito, Huila, or in Nariño. And so, I think what Benjamin was saying is really important. That the auction itself is great because it brings a big windfall income to a small number of producers. But the real positive impact of the program is it brings opportunity to entire regions that had been overlooked by the specialty market or weren't considered traditionally to be sources for quality, but once they're explored, they show that they have, as much or more potential as the well-known regions. And I guess I'll say one last thing is it's been a place where roasters in different markets can come together and talk about quality. So when you have competitions in Guatemala or in Honduras, you have roasters from Korea, from Australia, from Norway, from the US, and local tasters sitting together in a room for a week, talking about quality and sharing their perspective on quality. And one of the things that's happened is it creates a consensus where all of the cuppers might come in with different ideas about quality, and then after spending a week together studying the coffees meticulously, it helps shape their belief about what quality can be, what it should be, and then they bring those beliefs back with them to the markets and influence others. So it's had a big influence, I think, on how we define quality from a taste perspective, which is important.
At least in my area, there's definitely changes that we've seen in recent years that are, like really contrasting from one year to the other. Definitely, like impacting the coffee production. I think about 2020 when we had two of the biggest hurricanes in the history of Honduras within 14 days. That's a sign that like something it's happening. And on the area, there's areas where in the past you were not able to grow coffee. Now you can because of temperature going up. There are patterns that are slowly changing, like rain when we're not supposed to get rain, hot temperatures when you're not supposed to get hot temperatures. That affects the production, and not only production but also the processing of the coffee, and that are like definitely having an impact on how we grow and how we produce. It's kind of uncertain what's going to happen in the future. Really hard to predict or predict. But there's definitely some changes that we as farmers were trying to do our best to put our part and help soothe these problems that are internally happening within the region regarding environmental impact. And it might not be the case for the rest of the country, might not be the case for the rest of the world, but we're doing our part. But yeah, there's definitely impact that are really building fear in what the future of specialty coffee will be if everything continues the way it's going.
If you need to focus on one thing, I think in our experience you have to focus on the economic sustainability of the farmer, because they can't care for the environment if they're not economically sustainable, because they'll just leave their farm, go do something else, and then whoever takes over that farm is not necessarily going to take care of the land. But if you can create sustainability economically for the farmer, then you can have a discussion about environmental sustainability, and particularly smallholder farming tends to be better for the environment than massive industrial agriculture. And so creating a world where small farmers, like many of the farmers that win the Cup of Excellence, can thrive, I think is a way to start to approach sustainability in a holistic way. It's the beginning point and the most critical one, in my opinion.